Celeste is the very basis of the precision platformer. Treacherous landscapes, one-hit deaths, quick-to-instant restarts, and tight controls, all encouraging you to try again, but with a very direct and somewhat on-the-nose message of perseverance through hardship, while offering up plenty of interesting visuals, atmospheric music, and thought-provoking dialogue. It might not convert you into a fan of the potentially rage-inducing genre, but it may endear you to its charming characters and a story that is very likely to hit close to home. If you wanted a game like Super Meat Boy that deals with some very heavy real-life themes, Celeste may provide for those willing to take on the challenge of the treacherous climb. The game runs for $20 on Steam and on all other major consoles. But that's not all you want to hear, is it? Well, from here on out it's spoiler time. I'll be going over various plot points and scenes within this game, so if you want that fresh experience untainted by anything I have to say, you should probably just duck out now and play it for yourself. Otherwise, stick around and hear what I have to say, because I don't think this is going to go the way you think. Let's just say when I first saw this game being tossed around in trailers and whatnot, I felt I wouldn't like this game. Spike-soaked, pitfall-laced, die, try, repeat, rage-inducing platformers really aren't my thing unless they offer up an interesting twist, and I didn't see one being offered up here. Yet, I watched a lot of videos and listened to feedback from people that I'd liked, respected, and were friends with, who were all talking about this game being an amazing masterpiece. Like, Game of the Year material. So I dropped the $20, played all the way to the end, and I didn't like it. At all. Just like I knew I wouldn't. So it's time for me to be overly critical of a genre I'm not a fan of, about a game that's a recent and modern indie darling with an overwhelmingly positive Steam score. I'm talking like, out of nearly 2,000 reviews, 46 of them are negative. Man, am I starting off this show on the right foot or what? Couple things before I start proper. I might end up tossing in the term rage platformer here, but apparently, like hack and slash, I'm very quickly finding out that people have a much different idea about what that genre means. To me, a rage platformer is anything with perilous, tricky, and frustrating jumps or maneuvers, where constant death and restarting is not only likely, but expected. They're salt generators and designed to get you to want to give it one more try. However, I'm to understand that some people might be thinking of things like I Wanna Be the Guy, or Cinnabon Action, aka Cat Mario, where it's all about memorization and not precision, because the rules are constantly changing on you. They're designed to enrage the player and exploit the tropes of platformers to such an effect. I think that's fair enough, and while I'd rather call those games troll platformers, I can see why Rage Platformer might bring up that idea, so I'll do my best not to call it that. No promises if something slips out, though. Secondly, before you can say, I think Halo is a pretty cool guy, you need to remember that Celeste is the name of the mountain in the game, not the girl. Her name is Madeline. Of course, you could just change her name to Celeste if it confuses you as much as it did me, and you end up slipping that up a lot. Celeste has a very particular style about it, that kinda clashes with itself. The game is gorgeous for being very heavily pixelated, though the environments look far more artistic, colorful, and thought-provoking than the very simple and faceless sprites of the game's characters. The animations on those sprites is pretty top-notch. Contrast this with the game's drawn artwork, which is used in the conversations and chapter completes, which, while nice-looking, do have a couple of characters suffering from, bean face. One of my favorite effects is anytime that dark version of your character literally breaks through the fourth wall by busting out of the confines of her portrait box. It's a pretty cool effect and kinda unexpected the first time you see it, and it still kinda gets me every time I watch it. It's another situation of great music that I'm not a fan of, but I'll admit it's well composed and perfect for the game. Think a lot of minor tones, piano-focused tunes that all fit very well within the atmosphere the game's going for. Depressing and daunting, adding further drama and intensity the closer you reach the summit, and fitting very well along with the situations at hand. But a lot of this kinda puts me in a miserable mood. You know how some people listen to sad music to feel better about themselves? What the hell's that about? I don't get it, but there are a lot of people into that, and while I can appreciate this game's musical accomplishments immensely, I don't really want to listen to any of it outside of the game. Not sure what's up with indie games and sad piano music for games that don't normally seem to fit the theme. I mean, hell, I kinda stopped playing Starbound for that very reason because the title theme just depressed the hell out of me. Really should look back into that game, shouldn't I? Sound effects are very effective. I mean, some of them are pretty video gamey, like the almost NES-era death noise that you'll make anytime you inevitably screw up a jump. but your footsteps are on point. Wind howling adds to the desolate feeling of climbing a cold, abandoned mountain. Though I'll be honest, I'm not too big on the weirdly realistic noise you'll hear when collecting all the key fragments for a locked block. I'll get it. Fine. It's the fucking game, wasn't it? God, every fucking time! Also, the characters, when speaking, use this garbled Simglish, Animal Crossing-esque speech, that just sounds enough like words to work, but not enough to identify anything being said. Though the squeakiness of Madeline becomes downright adorable sounding when she's supposed to be scared, I don't think that's the result they were going for. As I said, calling this game a rage platformer might not be exactly what people are thinking of when I say that, but I sure do feel rage playing this. There's plenty of tight precision timing that will leave you plenty salty by game's end. And if you choose to play this as a means of overcoming a personal challenge that seems daunting and unassailable, I suppose you might find it enjoyable, but overall, I never felt any sense of triumph or thrill when I was completed. I was just glad when a section was over. Many people claim that the controls are tight and consistent. The rules don't change on you as much as they add in a new mechanic here and there, and you'll get the hang of it pretty fast. But I honestly don't feel a lot of the consistency here. Sure, you can more or less reliably jump, walk, and climb using the set controls, but something about this dash feels annoyingly wonky to me, and certain mechanics like platform launches and cloud jumps are annoying to pull off with the effective timing needed. Since you can dash in the 8 cardinal directions, I often find that the game's too fickle with directional aiming of this move. The stick just seems too imprecise, and the D-pad, which you'd think would be a lot more solid in execution, would commonly having me dashing a diagonal left when I only wanted to go straight up. Could just be my Pro controller, but I swear, getting Madeline to dash in the exact spot I wanted her to has led to an easy death more often than it should be in this kind of game. Luckily, with death being an expected part of the genre, respawns are common, frequent, and quick, saving your location to the starting section of the screen that you were on. And even if you need to take a rage break, you can use the save and quit option. Just don't exit the map for that purpose, or you're stuck starting at the beginning of the chapter. While early on this is fine, later sections of the game have long, annoyingly complex hallways, and sections that will require a ton of precise maneuvers to complete, and every death results in you having to perform every task in that section over and over again. Some sections just become more frustrating and time-consuming than they become challenging. Though Madeline is technically alone in the climb, you'll stumble across several NPC characters, like the first person you encounter, an old woman who often mocks you when she sees you, your mysterious dark half manifestation who comes to life out of a mirror in the ruins, Theo, a Seattle hipster obsessed with selfies, cell phones, and net lingo, and a ghost haunting a hotel named Mr. Oshiro. Each stage is a really rather lengthy section of the mountain, including a ruined city, a couple mysterious temples, an abandoned hotel, and other perilous sections that eventually will lead to the summit. Many of these areas have collectibles to find in the form of the admittedly useless strawberries, seemingly placed there for completionists, added challenge, or anyone who might get upset that the strawberry pie you bake in the ending cutscene might turn out to be shit. It is nice that heading off the beaten path can let you find different paths to the same area. The hotel hides a computer with a Pico 8 version of Celeste that you can play within the game as well. It's pointless to finish as it offers no reward for doing so, but it's the originally created Game Jam version available for free on their site, so that's cool to see, I guess. You can even meet Theo in the first stage if you head into the correct section instead of having to meet him later in the ruins, which will also lead to this exchange. In fact, saying the rules don't change isn't entirely true, in that they kinda do when it comes to map exploration. Having an exploration element is nice and all, but it kinda ruins the experience when Pit A kills you, but Pit B leads to a secret strawberry. It's just kind of a shitty map design to be pulling something like that in this game. Even though the death penalty amounts to making a counter go up, it still doesn't feel good, you know? The thing is, a lot of these odd frustrations can be seen as the entire point of the game. This game informs you that each death is just you becoming stronger and learning more from each one, encouraging you to press on. And while many times games would say something like this is a subtle mockery of the player's skill, I believe it's genuine here. See, Celeste is a pretty obvious and a bit on-the-nose metaphor for depression and anxiety. How someone living with all these mental illnesses might see every task as daunting, tiresome, and frustrating, despite that they all could be overcome through perseverance. Madeline explicitly states and discusses her depression with Theo in certain sections, and the game is loaded with visual metaphors, like a floating feather minigame to calm Madeline's entirely justified panic attack that leads to a floating feather mechanic that you'll use to traverse tight and tricky tunnels. Oshiro's hotel seems to be a metaphor for toxic relationships and unwillingness to change, as the hazardous mold that coats the walls are literal manifestations of Oshiro's anxiety issues, and how someone who's suffering themselves isn't exactly in the best position to help out, as the final scene of the hotel culminates with your dark half telling him off and sending him into a literal flying rage. One of my favorite scenes in the game happens when Madeline decides to confront and reject her darker side, causing it to rebel and rage to such a degree it tosses her off the mountain to the base, a metaphor directly stated for hitting rock bottom. Plenty of other areas can be thought of as metaphors for such things, and it's rife for personal resonance and theory crafting that might hit very close to home for a lot of people. So why is it so damned literal still? Am I like the only one confused by this? At first I was all ready to chalk this up to personal manifestations of Madeline's anxiety, like the environment is overblown deadly looking as a result of these worries. The ice block death trap at the very start of the game wouldn't be an actual ice block death trap, but perhaps like a patch of ice that was on the road. The ruin stage takes place entirely in a dream world that ends with you being chased out by your dark half and waking up from a nightmare after a phone call. I was even willing to dismiss Oshiro's hotel until Theo shows up claiming to have seen the exact same things you have. Then your dark half starts appearing to other people and they all converse, and suddenly I'm realizing that all this stuff is apparently actually happening. It's still all clearly metaphorical, but it's still happening in this world that isn't a fantasy land or alien planet with supernatural elements, that just happens to be using these things as a metaphor for current society. This is regular modern-day Canada, and Theo barely bats an eyelash about being encased in a crystal or watching Madeline argue with her purple-haired ghost clone. Regardless of the intended theming, some stages can go on for what seems like way too long. There's being taught elements of a game, being tested on those elements, and then there's being told to keep doing them until it's no longer entertaining. It's the Family Guy joke or homework-obsessed math teacher of platformers. The Windy stage is an exceptional exercise in misery that only seems worth the hassle for the ending cutscene, and nowhere does this concept of an overstayed welcome culminate more objectionably than the game's few boss fights. Calling them boss fights isn't exactly correct. I mean, you can't really fight back in these areas as much as you're either running away to escape or chasing to confront. Oshiro's section has you traversing the roof of his hotel in order to avoid his wrath after being told off, yet it almost feels like it's not going to end, even when the traps in sections seem to be winding down. In the case of confronting your dark half, you have to dodge her attacks, which ramp up on every screen, while you're still traversing the already deadly environment. It's tough enough to do both, but you find section after section after section of this fight, which even has the audacity to slow down, have her talk to you, and then run off again to continue the pursuit for a dozen more sections. This isn't fun, damn it! I have shit to do today! Luckily, if you end up spending more time digging your switch out of the wall than pressing the menu button, you can turn on an officially sanctioned cheat mode, more gently called assist mode. Once activated, you have a new options menu to let you do things like slow down the game's speed and better handle trickier platforming timing, climbing onto the walls as long as you'd like without falling off. You can gain the extra dash you obtain later on in the game earlier, or just go ham with infinite dashes. Or you can render yourself invincible to spikes, hazards, and pitfalls, making the game a complete breeze. While the game does heavily encourage you to keep trying without using it, it won't belittle you or lock you out of content for doing so. You can even reach the secret harder areas at the end of the game, and the game won't lock you out of them for playing on easy. It's an ideal mode for those who don't possess the dexterity but want to enjoy the story, those who just need that extra bit of help pushing past a tough section, or those who don't want to play this game legit anymore and just looking to more easily collect footage for a YouTube video. What? I said I don't like playing this game. If I wanted to get better at something that I don't enjoy doing, I'd get some more yard work done, or maybe improve my YouTube metrics. Regardless of how you play it, the game finishes with Madeline finally coming to grips with her dark half, as you work together by fusing to her Go-Tank style, gaining an extra dash and new platforming maneuvers in the process, until they finally work their way up from the bottom of the mountain in a very long final stage that takes you through every area you've learned before, until you finally take in the view, head back down the mountain while the credits roll, and serve up a strawberry pie to the friends you've made along the way. Then you see another area open up where you need several crystal hearts obtained from the hard mode B-side areas that you unlock with hidden tapes in order to open up the core. Complete its challenges, unlock its B-side, and collect more hearts to complete its challenges, and unlock access to an even harder C-side tapes where you—
Nope! No, I'm done. I saw the summit. I played to that point completely legit. I baked a pie consisting of like 7 strawberries for 2 ghosts and a hipster. I am not about to hunt down the rest of these tchotchkes just to find out that Dark Madeline is a metaphor for the atomic bomb or some shit. Don't laugh at the absurdity of that last statement. That actually happens in an indie game. We'll get there.
I mean, yeah, the core is a pretty nifty stage with some ice and fire switching mechanics that'll turn hazards into platforms and vice versa, and a mechanic that does not let you regain your dashes after standing on a surface. But, I mean it, I'm done. This isn't for me, and I hardly consider it a reward to finish a game that I didn't really enjoy to just gain access to harder sections of it. If anything, I'm really more interested in seeing speedrunners tackle this game. Doing some no-death runs or quick 100%s, because I feel this game would be far more entertaining to watch someone else play than to play myself.
I guess the point I'm trying to make here is that just because I don't like this game doesn't mean the game is bad. Celeste, however, gains a Caution Plus recommendation from me. It's a great game, but it's not one that I enjoy playing, nor could I wholeheartedly recommend to other people. I really don't think this game is going to be winning over any non-fans of this genre, and I'd much rather be playing something like Super Meat Boy, but Celeste does have its own charm and themes that I understand are going to resonate pretty well with a lot of people. Its music, style, and execution all gel extremely well towards the game's favor, so maybe you'll have a lot better experience than I did. In all honesty, though, if you look at this game and see everything about it and you think, I'm probably not going to enjoy that, you're probably not going to enjoy that. And it's just a difficult thing to say about games that are inherently good.
Of course, you don't have to take my word for it. You want to see a far more positive review on the game, the kind that I was saying was pretty much the normal reception, you can check out a YouTuber with far more recognition than I'll ever hope to reach, Catakaris, who greatly enjoyed this game. Take in his view and see if I'm just a blathering joyless idiot, or at least let me know if you'd played the game and how you felt about it in the comments. Also, come check me out on twitch.tv/chaosd1 if you're wondering why I'm not bothering with YouTube much these days, and you can even watch Indie Stop debut on there live on the appropriate Friday at noon Eastern, right before it goes officially live on YouTube. Again, I'm more than willing to hear suggestions for indie games you want to see covered on the show. I heard a few from the last episode that I'd definitely like to check out sometime. If you want to sweeten the pot, I have my Patreon that you can choose to support the show with tiers specific to Indie Stop and MMO Grinder, like early access to Indie Stop episodes before they go up on the Friday time slot, giving direct suggestions to me to more or less force your way into the queue, or to have me make a pain attempt to pronounce your name in the credits. So once again, I would like to give a verbal thank you to my Raid Leader supporters Nate McPherson, Neander, Kaizme, Gabe Darksmiller, Sonic Rose, and A. Smith. If I haven't dropped off all credibility already, I hope to see y'all back on the next episode.